Welcome back to Adri's Homestead Life. In this vlog we are going to make rosehip jam and apple and walnut pie. These two dishes represent autumn for me. So rosehip, and when the apple pie, apple crumble, apple cobbler comes on horizon, and I make that quite often, it's all about autumn. You know, the smell of the apple, you know, the leaves, the chill in the air, the first frost. So it's the rosehip. Pick the rosehip. You know, this time of the year is it's very exciting time. So, and the rosehip jam, it's one of my favorite, if it's not my favorite jam to make and to eat. Well, to make, maybe to eat. Yeah, definitely one of my absolute favorite jam is the rosehip jam, and I absolutely love the apple pie. So I am really looking forward to making these, and then after eating these and making some delicious meal together with the jam, and you know, just talk about all the other ingredients and all the other things that we can make, or we can involve other food in them to making, you know, pancakes or on toast, or rosehip yogurt, rosehip jam, rosehip cream, anything, rosehip syrup, you can use it as a cordial. So yeah, so if you're interested how to make rosehip jam and apple pie, you are welcome to my kitchen. Let's cook. I am now rinsing the rose hips in cold water, and then we're going to towel dry it, top and tail, both ends, and we're going to put some of them to the freeze dryer, and the rest we'll make jam with. I am top and tailing the rosehip, what means just cut the both ends off with a knife. It's a time-consuming job. It's not hard, it's just time-consuming. So that will take me probably a couple of hours to do. Actually, I haven't weighed them. We'll weigh together after I top and tail them. I remember I've still got 2 trays full of hawthorn berries in a freezer, so I might do 1 or 2 freeze-dry tray full of rosehip as well, so they can go to the freeze dryer together. I picked this rosehip now 2 days ago. So 2 days ago I've picked the rosehip. Yesterday I washed it, topped and tailed it. So I just chopped the both sides off, you know, where the stem is and when the flower was. And now this is ready to make rosehip jam. I always say that it takes 3 days to make rosehip jam to enjoy, for me to enjoy, because it is hard work. I think making, out of all the jam I am making, the rosehip jam is the most time-consuming jam making. So now I am going to talk about my recipe. I am going a bit experimental. So the ingredients are, for today's rosehip jam recipe, the rose hips. I'm going to use, I've got written down 12 cups of rose hips, top and tail, 12 cups. I'm going to use 12 teaspoons of lemon juice, freshly squeezed lemon juice and 4 tablespoons of freshly squeezed orange juice. Also, I'm going to double the water. I'm going to use 24 cups of water and I'm going to use 6 cups of sugar. Also, I'm going to use this funnel large cooking apple. I am going to take the core out, oops, but I'm going to leave, just made a mess with the pectin, I have to tidy up in a minute. I'm going to make, for extra thickening, the apple peel. I think that's it. So with the orange juice, and I'm going to use 9 teaspoons of pectin, and I'm going to take a huge risk because you should not use a pectin what is out of date, and mine it is. So we're just gonna have to wait and see if it's gonna thicken up our jam or not. But this is the risk I'm ready to take because I am ready to make this rosehip jam today and I'm out of fresh pectin. Start with 12 cups of rosehip jam. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We've got 12, we've got nearly 13, but we're gonna call this as 12 or 13 cups of rosehip. That goes in a big pot. And then now we're going to pour the 24 cups of water over it. Sounds a lot to me, this water, but I'm gonna follow this recipe. So, and this can now go up on medium high heat. Let's get the rest of the ingredients ready. So we've got the 12 cups of rose hips and 24 cups of water. I've actually put it on high heat. So next we need 6 cups of sugar. So I've measured out, we've got the 6 cups of organic cane sugar I'm using today, 1 cooking apple, 12 teaspoons of orange juice or 4 tablespoons. I've got 9 teaspoons of lemon juice, and I have got 14 teaspoons of orange juice because I've had 2 oranges and 1 lemon. So I'm just gonna use what I have, but ideally you use 12 teaspoons of orange juice, 12 teaspoons of lemon juice. So, and then we've got the 9 teaspoons of pectin in here. And now I'm just going to get ready the apple. So I'm gonna use 1 big cooking apple. If it's smaller, you can use 2 apples. So I'm just gonna take the core out. You okay, babe?
It's my bad.
Take the core out. And I'm going to grate this. I'll just pop it in to get something. And I'm going to grate with the skin on. And I'm going to put this in with the rosehip. And I think that's it. Rosehip, lemon juice, orange juice, sugar, apple, water, pectin. So I'm gonna wait until that water gonna start simmering, and I'm gonna use a potato masher to mash as much goodness out of those rose hips as we can. and then we're going to strain it. That's gonna be fun, because in the rose hips they've got big seeds and also these hairy little things in them, but if you're not careful and you don't remove them, it can actually really irritate your throat, and I have done that when I first started doing the rosehip jam, and it's not fun. So since then I'll take my time and I'm going to use a few methods to show you how I usually strain through the rose hips, and whatever left we've got, the pulp, the jam, even though we're gonna lose quite a bit, but it's still worth it. Then, you know, when you eat and you have that irritation in your throat, it's just not fun. So I've got a strainer, what I like, but I'm not overly keen on it. And I've got this little bag, and you know what worked the best for me? It's like tights or socks. You know what I use to render beeswax as well. But obviously then you have to discard those. So we're going to use, probably we're gonna use all three, so just to show you the method. Now I grated the apple, and I'm going to put this in now with the rose hips and the water. I'm going to add the grated cooking apple with the skin to our rose hip and water mixture. 30 minutes has gone and it's just started to simmer. It took me actually on this aga to come up to a low boil simmer, 30 minutes. So just keep stirring every 5-10 minutes, and now we're going to simmer for another 30 minutes before we're going to smash it. The rose hip is now for 1 hour on a stove. And keep mash it as much as I can with this potato masher. Try to get as much goodness out of it as possible. I'll give another 30 minutes and we're going to remove and strain this through. We've got 30 minutes before we strain through the rosehip jam, and I'm going to make an apple pie. I found this recipe and it says we need 500 grams of flour. I'm just using plain flour, 500 grams, 250 grams of unsalted butter, 20 grams of vanilla sugar. I'm using 160 grams of organic cane sugar, 12 grams of baking powder, 2 eggs, and did I miss anything out? Flour, butter, sugar, vanilla sugar, baking powder and 2 eggs. Yeah, that's it. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to mix the baking powder with the flour, give it a good mix, and we're going to crumble the butter with the flour, give it a good mix, and then we're going to put the sugar in it, both of the sugar, the 2 eggs, and make it as a dough. until it nicely combined together, and then I'm going to half it and put one half to this one sachet, other half to this other sachet, and we're going to put this to the fridge for an hour. The kitchen is now smells amazing. So I've got the flour and 12 grams, one sachet of baking powder. I mixed it really well with the flour, and I'm just going to crumble this unsalted 250 grams of unsalted butter within that flour. Just going to massage it until it crumbles around the pea size. Before we add the sugar, vanilla sugar and organic cane sugar and the 2 eggs, and make it as a dough. And we're going to have walnut apple filling within this spice. Sounds amazing. I've measured out 175 grams of walnut and 1 kilogram of apple. You're going to peel the apple, grate it. I'm going to put the walnut through the mincer so it's nice and fine. The recipe asks for cinnamon, so I'm using Ceylon cinnamon, 1 tablespoon. Also asks for lemon. I'm short of lemon today. I haven't got lemon, so I'm just gonna use like a teaspoon of lime juice within the recipe. So I'm just massaging this. This butter is cold. I've only took this out of the fridge maybe about 20 minutes ago. Going to put the sugar in it now. Give it a good mix together, and then we're going to add the eggs. I'm making a mess. Right. The eggs, and now we can make a dough. Farm fresh eggs. The girls are now not laying much, few a day. There's better days than others, but yeah, we're not having loads of eggs now coming in, but we've got, remember, preserved a lot. We've got freeze-dried eggs, we've got pickled eggs, we've got water-glassed eggs, frozen eggs, freeze-dried eggs. We're not short of eggs, and also I've got loads in the fridge as well. So we can still have lots of fun and bake together through the winter before they decide to lay again in early spring. I do believe the girls need a rest. You know, some people put additional lights because the lack of lights, you know, stop them. One of the fab. I just leave it as it is. Now this is now coming nicely together. And after this has become as a dough, I'm going to divide it in 2, and one goes to the one sachet and the other one goes to the other sachet. Just this little plastic bag, and put it to the fridge. An hour and a half later, now we're ready to strain the rosehip jam. So I want to show you a few methods I use. So this will now, you know, discard the skin, the seeds, this little strainer, and we end up with the pulp or the juice or the jam. I do like this, but it gets clumped so quick because of the rosehip seeds are quite big. So we have to empty this a few times. So the reason I'm not so keen on this strainer, because now it's not really going through well. So I prefer to put it through the sieve. I just wanted to show you that this is something what you can do. And then with the sieve, simple, with just the back of the wooden spoon, and I'll just stir it around and around. And as you can see, it's pouring out. It's just easier. And I'll get as much as possible out of it, and then I just discard the pulp a bit in a compost bin. Smells lovely already. Squish through as much as we can. And whatever is left, just put it in the compost bin. So I'm going to remove this, but I just really wanted to show you. But for me, I don't know, it doesn't work that well. I'm going back to a good old-fashioned method. I love this ladle, by the way. Look, I put 3 scoops. And then I like this little thing that you can just put it on a side. And at the back of the wooden spoon, first I'm just going to stir it until we lose most of the liquid. And then with the back of the spoon, smash on every single of those rose hips. Try to get as much pulp out of it as possible. And then I've got this little other strainer in here, and I've got ties around it. And we're going to strain it one more time, the liquid bit. So I'm just going to carry on doing this until all the rosehip is strained through this sieve. And then I'll come back and we pour this through those little socks. Those will take any little hairy things what left inside those rose hips. After I strained all the rose hip, we ended up with 3 liters of rosehip jam. It's very liquidy still. And I'm going to put this through again in this sock. That will remove some little bits and bobs what I possibly left behind, or that little hairy bits. This will take a little time. I've got clean hands and I'm going to push it through. Changed my mind. I think I'm just going to put... I've tried this and it doesn't feel any hairy feeling in my throat. So I would save so much money and time not to do the tights method. So I'm just going to put it through again this sieve, I think. Let's see what's happened. Okay, it's already 4:30. The jars, I'm using small jars, they're in a dishwasher. I haven't started the dishwasher yet. But I would just save so much time just doing this if it works. So I am risking it now, fingers crossed. This is gonna work. So it was 3 litre just. We shouldn't lose that much doing this method. Because if I use the tights method, that we lose quite a bit of the pulp bit and the end product is more runny and watery, what means it will take a lot longer to cook down and we lose lots of that goodness as well as volume. So we are experimenting right here. I'm going to put this through all the way and then put this back on stove and we're going to add the sugar, the orange juice and the lemon juice. And then we're going to cook this for an hour. So we still have about that 3 litre of rosehip jam. We haven't lost much with that second straining. And now we are ready to add the sugar. Give it a good stir. And now I keep my eye on it, stir it often until all that sugar dissolves. I'm also adding the lemon juice and the orange juice. And I'm just leaving this on now without a lid until this brings to a simmer. And we're going to stir this for, I reckon, about an hour. And then we have a look the consistency of our rosehip jam, because at the moment it's very runny, as you can see. This walnut is from my parents' garden. I'm just going to peel the apple and we're going to grate it. Pour the lemon juice over it and the cinnamon and the sugar and leave it for 10 minutes. And we'll see how much juice comes out of it. We might squeeze some out, we don't want the pie to be soggy. And then we're going to deal with the dough. It's already in two. It's going to have two halves, the bottom half and the top. And the apple and walnut in between. And I'm going to bake it in a medium oven about 35 minutes. These apples are absolutely huge. It's from our apple orchard. Careful, when I get to the close to the core, I just stop. And the rest I can take it to the chickens or the goats. They'd love it. One half of that dough will go to this pie dish. So we're going to roughly make this rectangular shape and place that in a dish. And we're going to put the apple and the walnut in here and cover it back up the other half of the dough. So we're gonna start with the walnut. Nice coating on the bottom. That. And I'm going to squeeze out the juice of the apple. And I'm going to just put it on the top. The dishwasher is on now, that's what you can hear. The jars. I'm just going to poke some holes with fork like that, and I'm going to bake this about 35 minutes. Still left a little bit of that walnut, we'll put that on the top. It is the next day. Let's recap on this vlog. Let's start with the good news. The pie, the apple and walnut pie, it is amazing. I just took the lid off actually and it smells delicious. Honestly, I need to show you this. I've already cut it up and just look how delicious this looks. Walnut and apple bites cake pie. I would use this recipe in a heartbeat. It's on my list. It's delicious. Rosehip jam, however, right, Is it a disappointment, this year's Rosehip jam? Yes and no. Yes, because it is not a jam. No, because it is still usable. And remember what I said? I'm going to use that pectin even though it's out of date. And I'm ready to take the risk. Well, there's few things I'm gonna change in this recipe for next year, or for the next time I'm gonna make this jam. First of all, let's try it. So good. It is delicious. It is too runny and too sweet. For me this is. So right now I'm gonna change this recipe. I'm gonna... It says we've used 6 cups of sugar. I'm gonna take down to 4 cups of sugar. For me it's gonna be enough. It is delicious, honestly it is delicious. It's just a bit too sweet for my liking. So I'm gonna alter that recipe. So we have 12 cups of rose hips. We can leave the lemon juice, orange juice. Another thing I'm gonna reduce in number, how much water I'm gonna use next time. So it says 24 cups. I'm gonna reduce that for 20 cups for next time, because it is too runny. But the reason it's too runny as well, because of the pectin. I leave the 9 teaspoons of pectin at the minute, because I need probably to experiment. 2 reasons that didn't work, didn't set. Number 1, because my pectin was out of date. Number 2, I probably don't even know how to use pectin, because I've never really remembered using pectins to set my jams. I usually like to leave things like pectin out when I make strawberry jam, plum jam, whatever jam, green gage. I never use pectin, because in a plum you don't need to, you just cook it down. I should have done the same, and that's what I've done in the past few years. I've never used pectin making rosehip jam. I used half of the amount of the water, and I cooked it for longer, and it was a good consistency. But I thought I would like a bit more rosehip jam, so I put more sugar and I used pectin, so it will set, job's done. No, it didn't work out. So it is delicious, but it is definitely not a rosehip jam, although the label it says jam, because I've got some labels from years before. So it actually made 10 small jars. Half of the jars got rosehip jam on it, but the other half is got rosehip syrup, because this is more like a syrup or sauce. So it's amazing because we can use this to flavor cakes, you know, fillings, creams, ice cream, whatever, yogurt. It is gonna be amazing, and probably we can use it on lots of other things as well, but it is not a jam, it didn't set. So that's the honest recap on these in today's vlog. So but yeah, otherwise I haven't done the sorrel yet, still need to do the sorrel sauce. And the celery, that's from all that celery, when I started to wash and chop, you know, most of it, I would say 80% of those celery was bad. Damage, slug damage. It would have been amazing, but the slug damage was so severe that I had to discard most of it. So, but that's gardening for us. You know, there are ups and downs, and I always want to be honest with you how it goes, the mistakes I make, because that's how we can learn and can be better the next time. So I hope you enjoyed the vlog, spending time with me, and see you very soon. Bye friends!